Number 10. The murder of Megan Newton. On April 20th, 2019, Megan Newton was found dead in her bed. She was only 18 years old, a smart and ambitious young woman living in an apartment in England. She worked as a youth football coach. She was excited to be the first one in her family to finish university, and she had plans to study in the United States. Megan was expected to have quite the life. She was also a great person who volunteered in her spare time to fundraise money for local football clubs. Sadly, all this came to a chilling end. She finished work on the 20th at around 10 o'clock at night. She went home and got changed, and then went back out again. Megan arrived at the pub to meet some friends at 11 p.m. Later on, they all went to a nightclub together. At 3:45 in the morning, she went to get a taxi home. As she was waiting in the lineup for taxis in the town center, so too was Joseph Trevor. The pair knew each other from school and started talking about the night they'd had. Joseph said he was afraid to go home because he had taken a lot of drugs and wasn't feeling quite like himself. Megan offered him a place to stay on her couch. That was just the kind of nice person she was. They arrived at her apartment at 4 o'clock, and 90 minutes later, Joseph was caught on surveillance leaving. Several hours later, Megan's neighbors found her keys discarded on the sidewalk outside. They were covered in a red, sticky substance, which they assumed to be blood. They performed a welfare check on her apartment, scared something had happened to her, and sure enough, there she was, dead in her own bedroom. Joseph had killed her in a drunken stupor. He had strangled her and then stabbed her repeatedly with such force that the knife pierced her lungs. And all because Megan had been nice enough to offer Joseph a safe place to sleep. Number 9. Fixing a flat. In Indianapolis, a measly flat tire led to a murder. According to local police, a man was gunned down near 71st and Georgetown on March 30th, 2021. He was killed after going out of his way to offer help to the stranger who had gotten the flat. Andre George and his girlfriend stopped at a gas station because they were having car trouble. That was when 31-year-old Ryan Thomas approached the driver and asked if he needed some help. He volunteered to change the tire for him, but something went terribly wrong. We don't know exactly what the conversation was during the few minutes Ryan was trying to change the tire, but something caused him to get mad and smash the back window of the car. We don't know if it was a thing Andre said, or if Ryan just had anger issues and the tire was giving him trouble. Either way, Andre pulled out his gun and shot Ryan twice without hesitation. Ryan Thomas struggled back into his car and tried to drive away, only to crash into a house across the street and die. It was terrible and tragic, and Andre George has since been charged with murder. Number 8. Giving money to the poor. In 2018, Jacqueline Smith went out dancing with her husband at the American Legion in Baltimore to celebrate his daughter's 28th birthday. It was a festive bash. Everyone was in good spirits. And then, things went terribly, terribly wrong. Jacqueline, her husband, and his daughter were all driving home just after midnight when they saw a woman standing by the roadside. She was carrying what appeared to be a baby and had a sign asking for money. Jacqueline's husband Keith pulled the vehicle over. His wife rolled down the window, and she handed the woman $10. This was the kind of good spirit Jacqueline was. She just couldn't walk away from a person in need. It proved to be the last thing she would ever do. There was another man there in the shadows, waiting to ambush any good citizen that stopped to give the woman money for her baby. He reached into the window of the car and stabbed Jacqueline. He snatched the necklace off her throat, took her pocketbook, and then ran away. The woman who had been his accomplice paused long enough to say, "God bless you," as Jacqueline was sitting in the vehicle bleeding to death. Sadly, Jacqueline died 2 hours after arriving at Johns Hopkins Hospital. The duo who set her up and killed her were busted near the Mexican border and charged with murder. Number 7. Sued for child support. William Marotta thought he was doing a good deed when he donated sperm to Jennifer Schreiner and her partner at the time, Angela Bauer. The couple was eager to have a child, but couldn't conceive one themselves, so they put an ad on Craigslist in 2009. William answered the advertisement and agreed to provide his own life-giving materials. He did not receive any payment, He didn't get any parental rights, and he hardly got a thank you. What he got was sued in 2012 by the Kansas Department of Children and Family Services. They ordered him to cough up $200 a month for child support. Jennifer and Angela had split. Jennifer, the one who had given birth to the child, filed for social welfare. The state then argued that because William was the sperm donor, he was technically the father. They got around the usual rules surrounding donors because the procedure was never performed by a licensed doctor. It was all a lot of legal gymnastics to file the suit. William, who had really just wanted to make these women happy with the child, was dragged through a legal battle that lasted 4 years. It wasn't until 2016 that a Kansas judge finally ruled in his favor, agreeing it made no sense for him to provide financial support. Who do you think should have to pay child support in this situation? William for being the biological father, or Angela for being the other parent who walked away after the breakup? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe before the end of the video. Number 6. Housing the homeless. Aaron Barley was given a new chance at life by two of the nicest people who ever walked the face of this planet. Tracy and Peter Wilkinson invited Aaron, who was experiencing homelessness back in September of 2016, into their very own home. Tracy took pity on Aaron when she discovered him huddled and cold in a cardboard box outside a supermarket. She drove Aaron to their house, gave him dinner, and made sure he was warm and safe. Her husband Peter even gave Aaron a job at his company to help the young man get back on track. Sadly for these amazing people, no deed so grand goes unpunished. Aaron had been fired from his job because he refused to stop taking illegal drugs. It became pretty clear Aaron had no intention of getting better. They had given him a second chance, and he was squandering it. The family had originally been letting him stay inside their home, but after a few weeks, they had to tell him it was time to find other arrangements. He just wasn't making any improvements. At the end of March that same year, Aaron showed up to the home with a knife. He stabbed Tracy in her bed, marched into her son's room, and stabbed him in his bed. Aaron then waited for Peter to return from work and leapt out of the shed and attacked. He managed to stab Peter 6 times before fleeing in Peter's car. Aaron never did admit why he went back and killed the family. He was given 35 years in prison for killing the only people in the world who ever tried to help him. Number 5. Trying to help the innocent. September 17th, 2021. This was the day Jesus Garcia shot and killed Michael Bankston in Avondale. The night of the shooting, Jesus was arguing with his girlfriend. They were out in the street, in full view of any ordinary people walking around. Jesus grabbed the woman. He screamed in her face, and then he picked her up and carried her towards the apartment they were sharing. If they had managed to get her into the apartment, nobody knows what may have become of her. But he never did get his girlfriend somewhere private. As the two were fighting and yelling, Michael Bankston was parking his car across the street. He saw what was happening and approached them, asking the woman if she was okay and if she needed help. Jesus told Michael to mind his own business and then pulled out a gun and shot him. Even as Michael turned and ran away, sprinting for dear life, Jesus continued unloading the clip. By the time he finally stopped pulling the trigger, Michael was dead. He was an unarmed man. He had never threatened Jesus with physical violence, and he had only been concerned about the safety of the girlfriend. We don't know for sure if what Michael did saved the girl's life, but it definitely saved her from the wrath of her boyfriend. After the shooting, Jesus ran home and tried to dispose of his weapon. Then he fell asleep. Police caught up with him soon enough, and now he's being charged with murder. Number 4. Sticking up for a friend. In California, an 86-year-old woman put herself in grave danger by trying to prevent an attack being carried out on one of her friends. It was early 2017, and Nevin Glenn Butler, just 18 years old, was on a rampage of elder abuse. Fusako Petrus, the hero in the situation, and her 61-year-old friend were out for a morning walk in a suburb of Sacramento. Nevin targeted the 61-year-old, coming up from behind and assaulting her for no reason. Fusako could have run away or phoned the police, but instead she started hitting the attacker with a walking stick. The attacker then turned his attention from his initial victim and launched a vicious assault on Fusako, ultimately beating her to death right there in public in the early morning. Fusako had been going on this morning walk for 40 years. She walked every single day, except Saturdays, and always felt safe in her own neighborhood. But on this day, Nevin had something snap in his brain. He was picked up by police later that day in connection to a completely unrelated assault on a 92-year-old woman. Clearly, Nevin was sick mentally. Number 3. Defending a baby. Allison Wilson was murdered for defending a baby. It was March 7, 2015. Stephen Duggan was arguing with a woman over a baby's car seat when Allison and her partner Anthony Tomlinson passed them in a taxi. The couple who were fighting had a baby between them, and it looked as though the baby was in serious danger. Allison had the taxi stop. Her and her partner got out, and they confronted the couple over the safety of the infant. Almost immediately, things got way out of hand. All Allison and her partner wanted to do was make sure the baby wouldn't be hurt. They just wanted to defuse the situation. But when they tried, Stephen Duggan smashed a wine bottle over Anthony's head and plunged the shattered remnants into Allison's throat, killing her. In the process, the baby fell to the pavement and sustained serious facial injuries. It was a total mess, but one that may have just saved this baby's life. It's horrible, despicable, and unforgivable that Allison was killed by a psycho with a wine bottle. But now that Duggan has been jailed for a minimum of 22 years, at least the baby will get to grow up without such a volatile influence in their life. Number 2. Death on a California Speedway. 19-year-old Bertha Ada Estrada was hit and killed by an SUV in 2018 while performing a selfless act. The young woman had stopped to help the victims of a car crash on a California freeway, totally unconcerned with her own safety. She stopped in the eastbound lane after seeing the crash, then ran to help the woman behind the wheel of a Honda Civic. The driver had slammed into the concrete divider, but as Bertha was standing next to the car, trying to assess the situation with the driver, she was run down by a man driving a Jeep Patriot. Before the ambulance could even take Bertha to the hospital, she was dead. She had her entire life laid out before her, endless possibilities, and it was all gone in the blink of an eye because the driver of the Jeep couldn't be bothered to stop for an accident. Number 1. Attacked with a chain. In late February 2022, a man was beaten with a chain for trying to step in and stop a woman from being beaten by her boyfriend in broad daylight. It happened in San Diego at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. A Good Samaritan was minding his own business when he saw a man identified as Ulysses Ramos viciously attacking a woman outside of a house in the Vista neighborhood. According to the San Diego Sheriff's Office, when the man stepped in, risking his own safety to protect the woman from the savage beating, he himself was beaten. Ulysses Ramos pulled out a chain roughly 3 feet long and started hitting him with it like some cheap version of Ghost Rider. Ouch! In the end, the Good Samaritan suffered minor injuries, but may very well have saved the life of a woman he didn't even know. Ramos took off. A SWAT team broke into his house, but they never found him. He's been missing ever since, and is considered armed and wildly dangerous. What's the one time trying to be kind to someone blew up in your face? Let us know all about it in the comments below, and thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you again soon for another awesome video. Bye!